Ladies and gentlemen, we are live from the Isle of Man in the UK. This is John and Mike's MMA Corner.
Chris Clarke, thank you for joining me. You're involved in the UK MMA scene in more than one way. Not just are you a manager for fighters, you commentate, you also promote your own show, BUDO, which is on this weekend. Doing all this, why did you choose to do so many different skill sets rather than just invest your time in one side of things?
First of all, thanks for having me on. I've just got a passion for the sport, to be fair. I enjoy the managerial side of things. I have a great bunch of guys that sort of represent the squad. Couldn't really ask for anything more from them other than to turn up and give everything they've got. I believe that there is a need within UK MMA to have guys who are quite happy to fight for the love of the game, people who aren't necessarily going to turn up and roll over for money. In some instances, fighters that obviously know that the UFC and other promotions such as Bellator aren't realistic dreams, but are quite happy to turn up and effectively have a go at it and see where they can get to. In terms of promotion, I suppose it sort of mirrors that in the sense that I like to provide a platform, not only for amateurs to effectively develop the skill set ready to take that leap into the professional ranks, but also for the professionals sort of in the local area to get the fights, which I'm sure you'll agree, quite a few actually complain about not being able to get fights, and there is the sort of common occurrence of fighters pulling out for things such as babysitting and the dog needs a bath or things like that.
Yeah.
And commentating, refereeing, officiating, or just necessarily sort of being a consultant kind of thing. It's just my way of attending shows, really. I don't necessarily make any money out of it, but I'm quite happy to go there and lend a hand. I work with quite a lot of promoters, including I suppose some would consider my biggest rival, just being in the same town, at FCC. If Adam needs help, he'll give me a call and I'll do my best to help him out. If I need, funnily enough, he sent me a message this morning saying if I needed any help for this weekend to give him a call. That's the kind of people and the kind of relationships that need to be in place in UK MMA. So I'm quite happy to sort of nurture that and hopefully develop it into a sort of a bigger stage.
Well, that's the thing. When you talk about your own promotion, I suppose on the UK side of things, there's been a slow, steady increase with you can name a handful of shows that are sticking around and they're not going anywhere. And especially when Cage Warriors went off the radar, those shows became a bit more prominent and more important for guys to get fights. I suppose, like you say, it was tough for some of the guys, maybe from Cage Warriors, to get matched up because, let's be honest, some guys who have got the Cage Warriors name behind them, some people would, I'm not saying, bollocks to it, they were a bit scared, let's say they were a bit worried about taking them on. Some people, I'm not saying they want to pad their record, but they're picking the safer fights, which frustrates me sometimes. You see it in all, not just UK MMA, it happens all over. I think it's something that's passed on from boxing, but like you say, you want guys that want to fight. With the shows like yourself, your next development, your next step, what do you feel is your next? How do you going to grow the show? How do you feel you're going to progress it? Is it streaming?
I understand what you're trying to say. To be fair, it's a question I get asked weekly with regard to where do I want BUDO to be. Some people have even said to me, am I hoping to sort of take it into the sort of the leagues of BAMA and your FCCs, because I believe FCC, even, as I said, even though it is in the same town as me, to be one of the biggest shows in the country. Definitely. Shows like BCMMA that obviously do well with people coming through the door and the fight cards that they produce. I get all that. My response to that is I would like it to be that way, but at the moment, where I feel I am succeeding in comparison to other shows that are failing is that I have a business model that works, and my life, it's very cliche, but my sort of life, how I lead my life is that if it isn't broke, don't fix it.
Mm.
So I am quite happy. I have a small promotion that runs very successfully. We're up to our 13th show this weekend. Since coming back in August 2014, we've been able to promote 9 shows. And we have done really well. We've visited Birmingham, we've done Newcastle, we obviously do the Bolton show, we've got Watford coming up, Newcastle again in July. And I'm not trying to effectively get ahead of myself. So I think it's important, if you are going to start any show, that you learn to walk before you can run. I mean, I'm currently working closely with Dino Gambatisa, who's promoting his first event in April in Wales, and he has done everything correctly. He's asked me for advice, I've given my opinion, he's took everything on board, and he's not trying to be the UFC before he's even promoted his first event, which is what you need to do. In terms of the big shows, you mentioned Cage Warriors and fighters wanting to fight, etc. At the time, Cage Warriors was the biggest show in the UK, and now sort of BAMMA has taken on that sort of crown. I think the issue with that was more that you can look at it on both sides of the coins. One side was that you had guys who, as you said, didn't necessarily want to compete against those guys, the guys that you need to compete against if you're going to make the step to that next level. So close to myself, if you have a look at Charlie Leary is one of my guys who will fight anybody who is put in front of him. He could be in the UFC, he could be just another regional sort of anyone, could just be anybody, and he struggles to get fights. So he is trying to constantly take that next step, which a lot of guys don't want to do. On the flip side is a lot of the guys who came out of shows such as Cage Warriors, who had the financial backing, didn't necessarily want to fight on the regional shows. Now I'm not tarring every fighter with the same brush, but the vast majority didn't. And I know of an example where I approached one coach and asked for a fight to compete on my show last year in Birmingham, and his response was he will compete, but he would want a minimum of £2,000. Now, to receive £2,000 on the domestic circuit, unless you are going to unfortunately shift 200-300 tickets, is going to be a very tough feat to achieve. So I think it's very much give and take in every aspect of the business, whether you're a promoter, whether you're a fighter. There just needs to be that sort of that divide, but at the same time the scales need to balance up.
Well, that's the thing with yourself. I noticed before we probably even made contact really at any time on social networking, was your show. You have just kept a steady momentum with it. You've not tried to. I suppose the one I would point out to was it BUDO Championship? I think it was called.
Yeah.
Where they kind of went all in for the first show, and to be fair, you know, a friend of mine, Thomas Young, he went there to do some work on the fights, but he said it was fantastic, the atmosphere, but he said it looked like it cost an absolute arm and a leg for their first show, and they haven't been back since.
Right, yeah, I mean, it's difficult because of the position that I am in, and I have a lot of, surprising to a lot of people, I have a lot more friends than I have enemies in the UK. I sort of come to some difficulties just because I generally speak my mind. I don't necessarily mean to upset people, but I believe that you need to be that, there needs to be that guy. So if I attend a show and I think basically you put your first event on, someone comes up to you and they go, John, how do you think it went? And you go, oh yeah, that was great, that mate, really enjoyed it, superb, definitely come again. Whereas I'm the guy that would say, right, this was excellent, this was good, this needs to be improved, so I would put your attention on that for the next event. That's not criticism, that's just telling it as it is, to try and help you effectively improve your brand. With Mac though, he didn't do anything, well, it's difficult because, as I said, I have a lot of friends, so I've been told a lot of things, and I know quite a lot about the Maxwell situation. I do know how much it costs. All those particulars and details are not for me to say anything. Now, in terms of the business model, it was going to be, it was a good business model, and the show was going to run successfully, even if it was just a one show, and they were never going to come back. Because I'll be honest, when I walked into the Milton Keynes Stadium that night, because obviously I had David Brown fighting, if somebody had told me it were a UFC event when I walked in, I would have believed them. From everything from the lighting rigs to the runners to the fight cards to everything, it was superb from start to finish. And Wad, Chris, James, the entire team did a superb job, and I get what they were trying to do. They informed me what they were trying to do in terms of sort of filming it, in terms of it being on TV, and it ran smooth. It literally ran perfectly. Like Andy Sledge worked sort of the running of the show backstage, and he ran it perfectly, and it was a great show. But what they were hoping to achieve didn't come off, in the sense that, I'm going back to it with what I just said a minute ago, unless you have guys that are going to sell 200-300 tickets each, do not try to invest thousands and thousands of pounds into a show that is not a guarantee to return your money. Now, I'm not saying return an investment and make a profit. I'm just saying to return your investment. It is too much of a risk in the UK.
And it is a shame when it happens. Like, you know, I won't lie. I was a bit disappointed that it didn't come off for them in the long run. It didn't happen. Another show didn't come about, because I'm all for another promotion. Like you say, I've any card I've went on, I will. If I speak to a promoter afterwards, I'm like you. I would give a constructive answer about what went well, what I felt didn't go well, and what they could maybe look to improve on. And like you said, it's just to help everyone, and that's what I find sometimes. I find that not everyone, because you know what, if you get 100 people in a room, there's going to be one person who's a bit of an asshole. It's just life. Statistically, it's going to happen. But generally, I find with MMA, especially in the UK, we are all trying to somehow work together and help each other, just to help, because I think it does have a knock-on effect on everyone else. If someone improves, it helps someone else.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, if, like I said, in the example we've just been on, if Maxo did another show, I would attend tomorrow, because it was that good. I agree. Unfortunately, not everybody is similar to as I and as you've just agreed, to sort of give that constructive feedback, and that's where a lot of shows fail, because they think they're doing a lot of things right when they aren't. I mean, again, to use another promotion that is close to home, have a look at Adam and what he has done with FTC. He started out 4 years ago at the TA Centre in Bury and put on a great show, and now 4 years later, they quite easily putting on professional cards of 16 fights. I think his show had a couple of weeks ago, 16 professional fights, should I say. Add on to that, obviously, the amateur card, and getting 1,000+ people through the door, and it being a great atmosphere and it being a great event. That's because he has taken on board feedback. I am one of the people that gave him feedback, but he surrounded himself with the correct people, and a lot of those people, it has shown, sort of the whole loyalty aspect is a lot of those people have worked on his show from day one and remain to be there because they work well as a unit, and that's what we need to do within this country as a whole. I work with guys as far as BT MMA. I talk to Jack and Chris almost every other day. There might be 250 miles between us, but we still work together, and that's what we need to do.
Yeah, I speak with Chris as well. I ping ideas to him about what they can do on their side of things, and I think it does help. And when we talk about your show, what kind of learning curves did you find then? Because obviously you're still, I'm sure this weekend will come along. You'll find something else. You will find something else that you go, do you know what? We can maybe work on that. What kind of things did you find made a difference when you added it to the card?
I mean, I always say to anybody who's looking to promote a show that your first 3 shows are trial and error. But don't get drawn into, don't try and do what other shows are trying to do. So if I was starting out a show today, say for example, a good example would be, say I lived in Newcastle, I was going to start a show. I wouldn't instantly say, right, my show's going to be as big as Dale's at Made for the Cage, and I'm going to do what he does, do this, and this, because it's destined to fail. It doesn't work like that. No 2 brands are the same, regardless of what anybody says. Now, in terms of my show, initially, I'd actually started a promotional sort of business, not to promote. It was to run seminars and do workshops, etc., which obviously I've done in the past with the likes of Jeff Monster coming over and doing tours of seminars, etc. And then I was given, or I was effectively presented with the opportunity to, with the right venue. I obviously had the contact, so I bit ago. And I mean, my first show was just over 5 years ago now. To put it bluntly, and anybody in attendance, such as like Mark Woodard and Aaron Chatfield, the shittest little venue on planet Earth. It was in the basement of a hotel. It was in a ring because it changed the ceiling. It lowered the ceiling, would you believe, in the 2 months between me visiting and arranging the venue to the fight day. So I actually had to withdraw the cage at the last minute and put a ring in. Granted, I had a decent amateur fight, but things were just... This is what I mean by trial and error. I had lighting that I paid extra for. I paid runners that I didn't necessarily need. Paid for advertising I didn't necessarily need. I tried to do everything in one go, and ultimately it was a great show, on a very small scale, and I lost a lot of money. And that's what happened. Now, what I did after sort of the third show is I took a lot of time away, partially because I had a little boy. So a lot of that time was just to sort of step back. I attended a lot of shows, sort of competed in a few tournaments and whatnot, and everything was great. And then sort of May 2014, I decided I was going to give it another go, and it went very successfully. And the new business model that I'd used effectively from the previous go at it worked, and it continued to work now, since like 2 years later.
Now, with then, obviously, you've got the show this weekend. Let's talk about your fight card that you've got then. From the feedback you've felt online, because obviously with the social network, when you put the fights out and stuff, can you point out a couple of fights? Because obviously I'm not going to sit there and say which fight are you looking forward to most. It's almost like saying pick your favourite. It's almost like saying pick your favourite child. Every parent's got one, but they're not going to say who it is. But from the feedback you've had though on social media when you put the fight announcements out, which ones have really kind of got the attention of people? Which people that people are looking forward to?
Yeah, I mean, well, obviously I'd probably start at the top and work down. I mean, in the main event, first of all, my show isn't like most shows in the sense that I'll put out 10, 15 amateur fights and then put 3 professional fights on the main card and as the main event. I do that. I have professional fights headlining, but there has been some instances when I had Jack Cartwright against Dean Begg, two great amateur prospects that deserve the platform, and I put them as the main event. This weekend we have 2 similar prospects. We have undefeated Shoaib Yousaf from Sinclair MMA, obviously trained by Rob Sinclair. He's 5-0 against Bo Gavin from Hammer, who is 9-1. Now, it's been announced today that both of these fighters are actually going to represent Team UK in Las Vegas in July at the World Championship. So, in terms of them probably being both being in the top 5 featherweight amateurs in the country, being on effectively a tour and not losing for, well, Shoaib's never lost and Bo's not lost for God knows how many years. To have those competing against each other is going to be a great main event, and I thought it deserved the platform. Moving down the card, we have obviously, as per Fuzzy rankings, we have Danny Stuck, who is 7-0. I think he's got 3, maybe 4 championships, including my own. As I said, he's ranked number 1 at bantamweight. He's looking to maintain his unbeaten record, but he's obviously fighting European bronze medalist, who was also obviously part of IMAF. Connor Hitchens, who is 7-2-1, and arguably again top 5. I mean, I think he's ranked like 26 on the same ranking system, but he's got like 4 fights missing with them included. Obviously, he would rank a lot higher. We have undefeated prospects fighting each other at flyweight in sort of the form of Scott Johnson and Liam Gittins. There are a lot of fights that a lot of guys are looking forward to. I couldn't necessarily pick one because I have quite a few. Obviously, we've got Big Rob Beach back, who's just sort of finishing everything in sight. It's going to be a good show.
Yeah, I got to say, because when you get the fight announcements, amateur side of things, I think it's great what you do where you give them the platform that they deserve, because I find that from my amateur days to now, it's a completely different standard. It's completely different level. And the fact that you got like the IMMAF or UK MAF, sorry, they kind of help. I think it's a good assistance that they're doing, putting in the rules and regulations in, and giving everyone a kind. Because let's be honest, years back, you didn't know what each promotion had different rules for different amateur scenes, so you were a bit confused and a bit lost. And now they've kind of leveled it out, so everyone's kind of singing off the same hymn sheet. So I think it does help everyone who's competing, and it's definitely raised standards.
Yeah, I mean, I agree. Sort of too many shows focus putting the amateur card together and then putting pros to finish it off. Now, a lot of these, like I say, it's common occurrence. It's happened to me this week. I've lost a professional fight yesterday. Unfortunately, we lost Scott Malone and Aaron Robinson, which again was a great fight. I was looking forward to that one. And eventually, if you have, say, 4 professional fights to finish your card and you get 2 pull-outs and you have to get 2 guys who are willing to take it on short notice, effectively your card isn't as strong as it was a week prior. And shows, and how many times have you been to a show where the amateur card is absolutely superb and you then watch the professional card where you've got these last-minute stand-ins and it's sort of an anti-climax. Whereas with my show, what we generally do is we mix them. I mean, Charlie Leary's obviously, who's had, 18, 19 pro fights off the top of my head, I can't remember. I think he's fighting at like number 7 on a 16 fight card. Obviously then you've got Rob Beach mixed in there, Kevin Fryer, and these are all mixed in around sort of Danny Sturt, who's fighting Conor Hitchens, Shug Youssef, Bo Gavin, and so on, obviously Paul Evans, Javier Singh. And effectively, I don't believe that the sort of professional fight should take precedent over amateurs when everybody should be given sort of the same platform. That's why, if there's a fight that is fully deserving of it, like the Youssef Gavin fight, I will happily put it as my main event.
Yeah, I feel the same in the sense of on a kind of the aspect of what I do is I get amateurs on the show, and I will give an amateur when I'm speaking to him. I'll happily give him the time he needs on air, so to speak as much as a professional. I won't get an amateur on for 5 minutes and then be gone and get a professional in, because I know it's not the same as a fight, but at the same time, it's something that they need. It's a skill set they need to learn outside of the fight game. Is working with kind of media, so to speak. Learning how to talk to people, getting relaxed on the microphone, and just getting to communicate a lot better, getting themselves comfortable with that situation, because it does help them long term when they get to the pro ranks. If they're already there and they've already done it in amateurs, like you say, they've already been on the bigger on like the main card. It helps relax them.
That's it. It's a business. There's 2 sides to it. There's the fighting and there's the promotion side. I mean, a lot of guys moan at people. Like amateur fighters have like Facebook pages, and people say, why do you need a Facebook page to try and promote yourself as an amateur fighter? I don't understand why people necessarily sort of trample on things like that. If I have a fighter that wants to create a page and he thinks it's going to be beneficial for him in terms of sponsorship, I'd let him. I wouldn't say that's a stupid idea, because you might only get 150 people that might like your page and follow you as an amateur. If one person offers you a couple $100 and sponsors you or gives you supplements, it's had the desired effect. You've succeeded in what you were intending to do. So I agree.
It does help. And so let's go to. I'm just going to go to MMA media then. One thing I find with. I've already spoke to someone about this as well in the UK promotional scene, is the differences I've found with the US and the UK. Is with the US, they're a lot more interactive with media outlets, let's say, in conversing about cards coming up, getting guys on to interview. I find that with the UK scene, I think that's where there's a slight bridge in the relationship between the UK. I'm not saying there's not a lot of UK MMA media anyway. To be fair, there's not a lot out there, and UK shows that it's almost like the UK media has to find and has to look a lot harder to get the guys to communicate. I think, in my opinion, what would be great is if, for example, let's say take your show. I'm just going to take it as an example. Your show's coming up. You sit there and go, right, okay, well, what media outlets have we got there? We've got A, B, and C. And if you just ping an email saying, right, this is my fight card coming up this weekend. I've got X, Y, and Z. If you want to talk to any of the guys, let me know. And we'll converse and we'll sort something out. Is that something that you've noticed yourself, or is this anything that's popped into your mind?
Yeah, I mean, it happens. I have self-promoted the fights that I have matched and self-promoted the shows that I have promoted for the last 5 years. And I have only, in that time, ever had one media, online outlet, company, whatever you want to call it, approach me. And that is Addicted MMA or Addicted on the Road.
Yeah.
Or one of the other sort of aliases close to that they call themselves. So, you're right. There isn't a sort of a broad field. Obviously, you've got like Kingdom MMA and a Peak Magazine up north and a few other sort of outlets that sort of cover martial arts. But other than that, I think Addicted succeed because they have the guys that are willing to put the man hours in. So any fight announcements that I have absolutely no sort of. I'm quite happy to go straight to Addicted. Say, this is who I've got. If you can put a publication up, great. If you can't, that's by the by. And I guarantee within a few hours, it's announced. I'm tagged in it. The competing fighters are tagged in it, and they do a great job. They've got a quick turnaround, and that's why a lot of shows use them. And rightfully so, they deserve everything that they get. It's a little bit like Front Row MMA used to be, prior to obviously sort of other things coming up and sort of certain founding members having to go off and do other things in personal life, which unfortunately meant the end of that, but they are doing a great job.
Yeah, and that's the thing. I feel that if there's a bit more of a... Because there isn't, like you say, there's not that many people in the UK for UK MMA promotions. I think if there was a bit more of a connection between the promotions and the media side of things, in my opinion, I think it would probably make things a lot smoother, so to speak, in the sense of, you know, getting the articles out. If there was a bit more cohesion, I'm not saying there is any friction. There isn't any friction at all. I'm just saying if we could if someone could start, like a relationship could build up more, I think it would help because, you know, like you say, you've got Addicted there, you've got your Kingdom MMA. If we can all work together to get the guys on, I think it would just get the voices out there a little bit more in the UK scene. And, you know, I'm not saying it's not going to be the same numbers as the US. The US has got a population of, 400 million. The UK has got 60. But it potentially reaches out to maybe a couple more people each time, a couple of new faces, a couple of new people. Maybe go, all right, okay, what's this show? All right, I'll maybe try and attend it, etc.
Yeah, I mean, in the current sort of climate of mixed martial arts in this country, I think if you want to fight at the top level, you want to be in the UFC, you want to fight in Bellator, and in countries across the world, if there aren't guys such as, say, Addicted MMA, who are going to give a fighter that promotion, that mention, put their name out there via their social media, etc. If you don't use the facilities that are there, I'm not going to say you aren't, but you're going to struggle, because it's not 15 years ago when the UFC, like, say, for example, UFC 38, when they came to London and they basically got London fighters on there. That was great. That's not the way it works anymore. If I could have a fighter that turns professional tomorrow, fight on my event for the next 2 years, and you may never hear of him, but he might be 8-0, fighting absolutely nobody. But if he self-promotes and he uses the facilities at hand, he will get to where he needs to be sooner. You need to use the facilities to get on shows like Banner that are on TV to promote yourself. That's why outlets such as Addicted MMA are such great. If there wasn't any media, fighters in this country would struggle unless they got fights abroad. Yeah,
you would. I agree with that one. So I've got to ask, your next. When are you going to start streaming your fights? I've got to ask that because it's easier to do these days. It is possible, and I just wondered if that's something that's going to happen.
Well, we've tried it a few times over the years. I believe the first time we tried to do it was BUDO 3 when we had Saul Rogers fight Artem Lobov in the main event. But unfortunately, sort of again, this is where I'm saying things do go wrong with shows. 5 minutes before the show, we had a connection failure, which meant we couldn't do it, and we promoted that was going to be the case for sort of 8-9 weeks prior to that. So there were a lot of people upset at the fact that they couldn't watch that fight online. not into upsetting anyone, but that's by the by. I think we then tried to do it at BUDO 5 in Newcastle, and again, the servers and the connection, it just wasn't there, and then we tried to do it, I think, again at like BUDO 7 or 8 in Bolton, and it's just gone wrong. We were supposed to start, funnily enough, actually this event this weekend, if I remember correctly, but I think for other commitments and stuff, the company we were going to use couldn't do the show, so we've sort of pushed it back, and June was supposed to be, the June Bolton show was supposed to be the first event that we were 100% going to do, the live stream, but obviously due to conflicts with shows in the surrounding areas, we've cancelled the Bolton show, and we've moved it back into July, and it's now become the Newcastle show. So it is on the cards, but the venue has to be correct. It has to be, the fight card has to be right. I'm not into, like I say, I know obviously people put the free streams out there, but I'm not. It's very difficult. I wouldn't want to stream an underpar card, and that's no gripe on any of the fighters. That's just, I appreciate that things can go wrong, and fighters can drop out, and then before you know it, say for example my BUDO 12 card, I had 11 fights at the weigh-in. I woke up on the morning of the fight, well on fight day, and I had 7. And you ask yourself what has happened in 16 hours that has effectively made that show, in the eyes of a customer, a bad one.
Yeah.
And I appreciate what they're trying to say, and I was nothing but apologetic. I had 7 good fights, but if you're going to pay £30 for a ticket to come and watch 7 fights, you feel a little bit hard done by, unless every single one of them is a 5-second from the end stoppage. You know what I mean? You get your absolute money's worth, which is very, very rare in UK MMA.
Yeah,
well, in any show.
Yeah, yeah. You're not going to get 7 Robbie Lawlers versus Roy McDonald's.
Yeah. Basically, if I could promote 10 fights in an event that all go that way, time me up now. You know what I mean?
Yeah, it is a tough one. Yeah, I agree. I just think that the streaming, I suppose, for me, is probably the next stage for shows like yourself. I know BCMA started doing it. I even think, like, you know, like you Made for the Cage, FCC. I think streaming is the next stage for all of you to just reach out a little bit more to people in the UK, not just worldwide. It'll happen worldwide, but I mean on the UK scene, so to speak.
Yeah, no, I agree with you, and it's something. Well, after everything I've just said, I've just sort of had an epiphany that it's something that we are looking to do for the May event in Watford. The reason being is obviously we have a lot of local talent on the card, but obviously those locals have got guys that want to come and watch them fight live so that they can obviously support them. I mean, but on the Watford card we have Joseph Karim, who is sort of European BJJ champion at purple and brown belt, and he's coming over to fight Rafał Kedrowski. Now Rafał has quite a big following in Poland, so a lot of those guys want to watch. Obviously it's not like they can just bob down the road on a plane, is it? Come and watch the card, and then likewise, obviously Joseph is from Norway, and he has quite, because obviously of his BJJ pedigree, it sort of propelled him into grappling godlike status, so to speak. He's going to have quite a few guys in Norway, again, that can't just necessarily jump on a plane and it's 2 minutes down the road to come and watch him. And then likewise, Dan Castle's opponent, Matthew Miller, is the wrestling coach at TriStar. Obviously there's going to be quite a few Canadian guys that want to watch the fight, so that's something that we're trying to implement for that show. Again, it has to be done correctly, and that again, I suppose, is in terms of the business model and etc. that we were speaking about earlier. I'm not into naming names, but I get my filming done for X amount, and then when I want to introduce things like live streaming, which is, I'll be honest, working with some tech buffs, is a few clicks of a mouse, a few extra cables connected into a few different ports, and away you go. That cost has propelled, in some instances, to quotes that are 3-4 times dearer than what I would usually pay. And I fail to understand why, but then it is a money-making business for the film crew that are going to come out and do that. So I'm not willing to jeopardise the show long-term by paying X amount. This is just in a generic sense.
Yeah.
I wouldn't want to fork out another, I don't know, well, to put it bluntly, an extra 1,500 quid just to have it streamed out all ways in, to get maybe I don't know, 10, 15 people in Canada watch it,
Yeah.
it's going to jeopardise the show long term, meaning that I can't play any more events.
No.
It goes back to me saying everything has to be give and take, and there has to be that balance.
No, you're spot on there with what you're looking at. I joked around with one promoter saying, why don't you use Periscope? I joked around saying, get a Periscope, get a quality phone, stick it in an angle, and put Periscope, do it via Periscope, and just get a decent Wi-Fi. And I was thinking, it's an idea for someone, but like you say, it's the cost. It is something you got to think about. And you mentioned there your little TriStar coach. How did that come about? Obviously, how did these overseas fighters come about? How do you? Is it just contacts? Is it just people you know? How did it all?
Yeah, I mean, just to cover the first point there, when you said why don't you use Periscope? I'll be honest with you. If I believe that could potentially be something in the very near future that you actually see happening, and I don't see how it wouldn't work.
Yeah.
If you have not necessarily a smartphone, but a smart device that holds that feature, and you can, bear in mind that's a small device that you can dock 10 little sort of lenses around, get 10 different angles of a fight, and you can make it live at the flick of a switch. Why wouldn't you do that instead of paying X amount to have the show filmed? I believe that's something that we will see. I think Harry Williams was doing it at FCC, because he told me off for speaking to him because he was doing it live, which I get. But in terms of the actual overseas fighters, I don't necessarily. Again, there's two sides to it. One is you've got guys that want to fight. Take, for example, the Norwegian fighters. I have a lot of Norwegian guys come over on my show. So obviously, in the past, I've had Ollie Jonsson, Joseph Karimu is fighting, Jacob Gregor's. There's loads, and those are guys that want to fight and are willing to travel. Partially the Norwegian aspect is that MMA is banned in that country, so they have to travel to fight. But that's one aspect. You've got guys that are constantly sending you messages, begging to fight, begging to get on shows, and they're quite willing to put the yards in to come over and do it, which is great. The other aspect is contacts. Matthew Miller comes over when he's cornering fighters, so this is how obviously this came about. He was cornering I forgot his name, Arnold Allen on the London card in February. Whilst here, local gym, David Lee, thought this guy's obviously an Olympian wrestler. My gym and my guys could benefit from having him over doing a seminar whilst he is in the country. They reached out and they got him in to do that. At that time, I'm thinking, has any interest in fighting? Is it something he could potentially look to be doing in the near future? So I reached out to him and said, I'm good friends with Dave, obviously I manage him. Is this something you're interested in doing? Because if you're coming over doing seminars or cornering fighters, I'd love to have you on if obviously the dates match. Within 10 minutes got a message back, love to fight, can't get fights in Canada, can you get me a fight over here? I can guarantee fights for any individual. There is somebody out there that will fight you, and I'm not talking about a bum that you can knock over in 6 or 7 seconds. There is a guy for everyone. Within 24 hours, Dan Castro put his hand up, said, I want to fight, and I want it to be real. Not interested in knocking bums off, getting a great record. I want to fight. Put me down for that. Message Matt. He said yes. I said yes. Fight done.
That's awesome stuff. That's great. That
within, I'm talking 3 days. That was it. Finished.
That is awesome, and it's the fact that I spoke to a guy called James Lynch. He's in Canada, and he was saying that the Canada scene it's I'm not saying it's gone a bit stale. Let's say he said it's not actually the promotion's fault actually in Canada. He said it's more down to the commissions. It's the issues you see in Canada. So understandable, it's a kind of there's a market there in Canada where fighters possibly find it a bit tough to get fights, and you leapt on it. It was a very smart move. I think it's going to help.
Again, I think that it takes someone with sort of Matthew Miller's reputation of being a TriStar coach. You're not forgetting that this guy is coach to the guys of Arnold Allen, Rory McDonald, Tom Breese. He worked in the development of George St. Pierre, who is arguably the greatest fighter to ever live. he's definitely up there. This guy has all the tools and the reputation of developing great fighters, ground games. Now, that to me, you would say, why does that guy struggle getting fights? Now, going back to when you said that guys not wanting to test themselves against, say, Cage Warriors fighters, nobody is willing to take a fight with a guy knowing full well that his game plan is going to be imposing his grappling will upon you. I mean, I've had an open conversation with Dan, who knows full well that Matthew is going to try to take him down. You'd be an idiot if you didn't think that was going to be the case.
Yeah.
But obviously, this is mixed martial art. There's a lot more to it than trying to pin somebody to the ground. You've got, obviously, the submission aspect, striking, etc. Obviously, I don't need to explain. But, as I said, it's give and take. I turned around to Matt and said, I have this fight. It's a fight that's not worth anything to me in terms of financial return, but it's a great fight which I'm interested in promoting. So I turned around and said, I will pay you what I would pay a standard fighter making their debut within MMA in the UK. And he snapped my hand off. He's not one of the guys that turns around and goes, oh yeah, well, I want flights for 15 members of my team, I want $3,000, I want 15 hotel rooms, press passes for it. There was none of that. It was just a will to fight, and I was happy to give him it. And like you say, it was probably just a good plan for me to just put myself out there and see if I could get him on, and ultimately it worked out well. But unless there is the desire, like I said, it's just good. It worked.
Yeah, you need it from both sides. Absolutely. Yeah, you could. You don't want to be you don't want to be trying to sell yourself for them to just try and take. You want both parties to be on a mutual agreement, and I think that's something that I noticed on social media with you a long while back. You would always look to get guys matchups, and I would never see I'd never see a matchup where you'd have a guy. Like, say you've got a guy make his debut who is going to fight a guy who's got 20 fights under his belt. It was something about yourself that you could see from the outset, the way you kind of put yourself out there with matchups. You were trying to find fights that would be competitive.
Yeah, competitive and equal. And again, Matthew is a good example of that. Matthew was willing to fight anyone to get a fight because he couldn't get one in Canada. But I said, obviously, I'm not happy to put you in as a debut guy, even though you stand a probably a very good chance of beating a guy who may be 5-6-0, whose grappling ability isn't as superior as yours. I wouldn't be willing to put in there with a guy who was that, and he accepted that, which was good. But on my show, I don't like. The only thing I say to fighters is I can't stop people competing in the meantime and effectively changing the sort of circumstances around your fight prior to my event. And by that I mean, if I match you as a debut amateur fighting my best mate from down the road who's a debut amateur, that's great. 0-0 versus 0-0. If in the 3 months I have connected that, made that fight happen, you have gone out and competed 3 times on other shows and you are 3-0, to me, that is not a matchup. Reason being is there is nothing stopping your opponent going out and competing also, because I am in no way, shape or form in a position to say, you can't compete doing something you love as an amateur. Nobody has that right. But if you are trying to match a debut guy with somebody who's 3-4-0 3 months out, I think that's completely wrong. You're feeding a guy who is try and see whether this sport is for him.
Yeah. And
throwing him effectively to the wolves by putting him in there with a guy who is effectively a monster, and you effectively just giving the monster a run out. Obviously, there's the odd occurrence where the guy makes up and obviously upset the party, but on paper, that's what it looks like, and that's what I try and avoid to do.
Yeah, it is one of them things. Sadly, you do see it happen every now and then. I suppose that, like you said, that it does depend sometimes on the circumstances of the person's background. For example, we'll just take a big name person so it's easier to deal with. Look at Daniel Cormier, or not only Daniel Cormier, forget that, Henry Cejudo, he was an Olympic gold medalist. He comes into the MMA scene. It's a bit unfair to put him against a guy who's not got much experience in martial arts per se, in this particular martial arts, but that's why he's getting a title shot. I feel a bit early in his career, but he's getting a title shot because of, he's had capabilities to get there. But like you say, you don't want to get someone who is no fights against guys who are just a monster. It's because there's no regulation in the UK. I'm not saying it happens, but it's a bit. Sometimes it can happen. And do you think maybe a commission in the UK might be a benefit? Sorry, Chris, are you still there, buddy?
Yeah, I'm still there, yeah.
Do you think a commission in the UK might be a benefit in the sense of just regulating things like that?
Yeah, I mean, say, I don't know, who do you see at shows? Right, David Haye goes to the BAM shows and works the cameras, etc. From time to time. If he turned around and said, right, tomorrow I'm going to start training MMA and I'm going to make my debut in 3 months' time, do you think he fights? And obviously there was the James Toney incident, which was just horrific. But do you honestly think that the UFC would turn around and say, right, we'll sign? They wouldn't.
No.
He would have to fight on a local show. So suppose for him, use something like UCMMA, and he would have to put the hard yards in, unless you were a big enough. Well, I suppose again that was probably a bad example in terms of the CM Punk thing, but you know what I mean.
Yeah.
If somebody to say like a professional footballer retired 5 years ago was going into MMA, that's a perfect example for you. The guy who is on TV on The Only Way Is Geordie Shore or whatever the bloody hell it's called, don't know his name. He wants to do MMA. He's in the public eye, and he's fighting amateur on Dale Percival's show in September in Liverpool. That's what you will have to do. You'll have to put the hard yards in, and if it's something you want to do, you're going to have to do the work. And although I don't know the guy, my props go out to him because he is taking a big risk. Obviously, I'm not saying it would knock him if he got beat, but obviously he's taking that risk if he goes out there and gets hammered, which I highly doubt he will, that he's effectively going to be known as the guy that was on TV that got filled in.
Yeah. And like you say, it's going the right way. He's going into the amateur scene. He's not trying to make a pro debut, trying to be a main event. Someone's not trying to make a marquee out of him by putting him as a main event like a Kimbo and Dada.
Welterweight, like he's turned round to Dale and said, I want to fight, and Dale turned around and said, right, okay, then if you want to fight at welterweight, you're going to fight Colin Fletcher.
Yeah.
That's what I'm saying. He's doing it right, but that's what I'm saying. In some instances, what people say should happen, going back to the Matthew Miller. People are saying, why is he fighting Dan Castle? Why isn't he fighting somebody who is elite level? Well, why should he? It's like, initially, I have a lot of promoters saying, well, not anymore because he's turned pro now, but when Joseph was fighting amateur and he was fighting on my show, I had, not even exaggerating, probably 10 coaches that said, I am not willing to put my amateur fighter in a fight with a BJJ black belt who effectively shouldn't be fighting amateur, he should turn pro. I don't agree with that, because if you have a professional boxer that came over to MMA, would you expect him to turn pro straight away? No, he wouldn't. He'd fight amateur and he'd learn his trade.
Yeah.
Same as a BJJ player turned into MMA and learning his trade on the feet. Now, I've only come across 2 coaches that have turned around and said, no, we fucking want to fight. And that's Chris Reese and Cam Atakuru at ASW Manchester. When I had Ash Williams, who's obviously the UK's youngest BJJ black belt, one of the best in the country, when I had that fight going, he jumped on that fight for Ben Royal. He said Ben Royal needs to fight these guys as an amateur to test his skill sets and find out what he needs to do for when he turns pro.
Yeah.
They're the guys I want fighting on my show.
Yeah.
And likewise, when I had Joseph on the show last time, I couldn't match him until Mick Stanton from Hammer turned around and said, I'm a professional boxer. I'm not great at what he does, and he's not great at what I do. Let's see what happens.
That's awesome.
Ultimately, he got beat by submission, as you would expect a superior grappler to be able to do to get it off on the ground. But he wanted to say, and I've had conversations with him since saying, my ground game wasn't on his level. I went in to hopefully knock his head off, which he tried to do, and to be fair, he nearly did it. But Joseph ended up getting the submission, and he turned and said, right, I know where I need to be before I can turn professional. And that's just how it's done.
And that's exactly it. You've got to sharpen your tools down in those hamstrings. And I tell a lot of guys that I speak to, and when I speak to guys who are coming up from there, who are going to look to make their pro debut, I've had numerous guys on, and I speak to them openly and ask them, what was it then that you weren't great at? What was it then that you were lacking? For example, it could have been, I did a lot of boxing when I was younger, but my ground game was weak. I had to work on X, Y, and Z. And it's great. I love asking that question because I love hearing the openness and honesty, saying, "Yeah, I got my ass handed to me doing this," because you've got to find out where you're weak, and it's
and that's it. Some coaches are going to have it right. I think it's very much an adopted thing these days. But sort of, you're talking 6-7 years ago, you would have fighters that would have 1-2 amateur fights and think, "This is it. I am going to be a UFC fighter. I'm going to be the Don. I'm turning pro." Ultimately, it goes tits up. Now, my first sort of experience with somebody who said no was somebody I massively respect, and that was Aaron Chatfield when he was in charge of managing fights for the Team Coliseum lot in Bolton. He would say, "My amateurs require 10 fights minimum. If you want to turn pro, before you've had 10 amateur fights, go and fight somewhere else." Obviously, Aaron isn't part of that anymore, but it's a rule that Saul Rogers has taken forward now as sort of the head coach of the gym. And that's how it should be. Unless you are, say, an ex-professional boxer, which also happens to be BJJ black belt, and the chances are you're going to do okay after 3 or 4 amateur fights.
Yeah.
You should be fighting amateur for a lot longer.
Yeah.
To iron out any creases you may have. Because people say now under the unified amateur rules, there's not a lot of difference in terms of the rule sets. There is. And elbows is a massive one.
Yeah.
It's only one. It's only the addition of one extra sort of strike, but it's a big one, and you need to be prepared for them coming in because. And I mean no disrespect to him because a lot of people know that me and Ian Entwistle have had words in the past, but it's not. It's just an example. He fought as an amateur on Cage Conflict way back when, and he fought a chap from Yorkshire called Ant Jeffries. Now, as an amateur, you are not prepared to defend elbows. But Ant Jeffries threw the most illegal blow during the fight. He came straight through the guard, bang, elbow. And Ian Entwistle was unable to continue. And that's the sort of devastating effect that an elbow can have on you. That you need to be prepared for that for when you turn pro. That's why I'm saying, if you aren't prepared, similar to that instance, an elbow can effectively take years off your fighting career, depending on the damage that it does. So I understand why you would not want to learn your craft before you make the leap into the fucking Shark Tank.
Well, you had Clarke said it himself as well. He went from Pride to UFC. When he went to the UFC, he said one of the things was elbows. He said he just couldn't. It was just something he wasn't prepared for, even though he knew it was coming. It just, when it first happened, he said it was just something that kind of surprised him and shocked him. And it is a big thing. It's only a small thing, but it is a big thing. Same with heel hooks, People don't understand what a heel hook is like, and when they've had a heel hook on them, it's, it is a slight pain in your knee, but the thing is that shifts a little bit more, and that whole thing blows, and that's a huge thing. That
I'm not necessarily against any one rule set. So again, an example of that would be UC MMA.
Yeah.
They don't allow elbows.
Yeah.
Fine with that. I don't care. Still professional mixed martial arts in my opinion, because everything else goes. For me, you can't compete as a professional martial artist if you're not prepared for the entire rule set. So Clarke hit the nail on the head.
Yeah.
You got it absolutely right. It's only one little difference, but it makes a big difference to the entire fight. Again, with heel, like when you said about heel hooks.
Yeah.
If at any point during this amateur fight, your opponent applies a straight leg lock.
Yeah.
And you, as a defense mechanism, begin to try and roll from that submission maneuver, and your opponent rolls with you, it is effectively turning it into a twisting heel hook. But the player on top has done nothing wrong. He has solely tried to continue the straight hold.
Yeah.
And that's when injuries can occur. Now, for me, there's no issue with that. That's still a legal move. But just that twisting can effectively end a career.
Yeah, it is only slight, isn't it? That's the crazy thing about it. You know, the escape turns it into, you know, a more serious submission without intention. Yeah. You know, and it is one of them delicate ones where a referee has to be more on the ball. I think a referee has to know the knowledge of submissions of the ground game when that happens. You know, look, it's something that's going to happen in this game. It's just a learning curve still. The sport's still very young.
Yeah, I mean, and as I said, I think again it comes down to where you train and who you train with. Because I'll be honest, who would you rather apply a whole sort of like a twisting heel hook to? Would you rather have it somebody who lives and trains and has always fought in London, England, or somebody like Russell Paul Harris, who's probably going to pull your leg off and take it home with you as a trophy?
Yeah.
So you have to train. You have to be prepared for all.
Yeah, all the possible dangers.
And pretty early on. If it's something you're going to do, you're going to have to put the hours in.
Yeah.
If you don't, if you just want to turn up on a Saturday evening and have a go, unless you're standing in on 2 hours' notice and getting paid a month's wage, it's not worth your life.
Yeah.
You have a look at like Rory McDonald again, going back to using him as an example. He's now testing free agency because he's not getting paid as much money as he should be. And then when you have a look at the fight with Robbie Lawler, that fight took years off his life.
Yeah.
I don't care what anybody says. He's lost 2 or 3 years to that fight to give the public what they want and to give the promotion what they need. So he wants to be remunerated aptly. So I understand why he's made that move for his career.
Yeah.
It's a business.
I'm all for it as well myself. I'd back him up 100% on that.
Why do you think Benson Henderson's gone to Bellator?
Smart move.
Yeah, again, I'm not going to name names, but I know of a fighter competing in Bellator that fought his last, and this is narrows the field down again, so I'll say a European fighter who competes for Bellator, and in his last he did $32,000 in sponsorships alone. So you've got to remember that if that fighter competes in the UFC, he's going to get $2,500 off Reebok for his first 5 fights.
Aye. Nuts, innit?
You do the math, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Unless you go on a tour in the UFC, win 5 fights, and have a personality like Conor McGregor, it's going to take you a lot longer than that, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
To be earning the money that these other guys are doing by other promotions who are willing to offer sponsorships.
Yeah, and the difficult thing
Dean
is...
Lasseter, who is the cutman for Bellator, thanking them constantly for allowing them to earn extra money by having sponsors when they're stood cage side applying Vaseline.
Yeah.
And I think it's great.
I do too. I think it's crazy because the problem you're going to have in the UFC now, especially, is everyone's going to try and be their own version of Conor in a way. So it's going to be a lot harder, I think, to be standing out more because a lot of people are going to take a leaf out of what he's been doing. So I think you're not going to. It's going to be harder to stand out. So it's a tough one with that as well. So
and that's it. And as I'm saying, it's Conor McGregor's got it right. It's a business, as I said. I might not necessarily agree with everything he says, and at times I think he is a bit arrogant, and it means that I don't like him as much as I possibly could. But he's a money man who can promote himself. Now you tell me, has he promoted himself to the point where everybody who is involved in martial arts, and not necessarily people who are involved in martial arts, doesn't know who Conor McGregor is? They do.
Yeah.
Has he made a lot of money out of it? Has he? He's made a fortune.
Yeah.
And that's what a lot of guys will now start to do, as you've said. But it's, again, it goes back to, in life, all of your stars align. Now, I'm not going to say Conor McGregor's not as good as he is, but he entered the UFC and said, I am going to be the best. And he spoke, and Chael Sonnen did it up until the point where he got submitted by Anderson Silva, which was very unfortunate because I really wanted him to win. But he entered the UFC and said, I'm going to be the best. And he won, and he won, and he grew, and he grew, and the UFC said, we'll cash in on this. And now a lot of people are saying it was humble pie because his stars stopped aligning when he fought Nate Diaz. He wasn't efficient. There were a few fundamental reasons why he possibly lost that fight, the weight being one of them, but again, he didn't necessarily give weight away to the fighter. They both fought at a weight that wasn't good for both of them. But what I'm saying is, he has the business side of things down to a T. UFC. So a lot of people saying now they expect him to come back more humbled. He won't, because he doesn't need to be, because he can make money being the bad guy.
He does, yeah. Well, it works,
yeah,
and
bad guy was probably, you know what I mean by that. By
yeah, the heel.
The gobby git. By being that, people love that, and it will make him money, his opponent's money, and the sport money. Why not?
Well, it works because you either love him or you hate him. It's as simple as that. But the thing is, everyone's got an opinion, and that's what you want. It's like Floyd Mayweather in boxing. Let's look at him. You know, with Floyd, you either love the guy or you hate him. Whenever you watch him fight, people want to watch him win, or there's people who want to watch him get absolutely flatlined.
Yeah, because and I agree with that, because you'll see people that'll pay £15, £16 on Sky Boxing to watch him fight, complain it was the most boring fight on earth, and then the next fight pay £15, £16 to watch him fight again, hoping that he's going to get beat.
Yeah.
But you know full well he isn't.
No.
But you'll still pay to watch him fight and put money in his pocket. At the end of the day, that's all you're doing.
Yeah. It's a smart business move. He's just being a businessman at the end of the day. He goes home with his big lump of cash, and that's all he needs to do, and he just sits there happy as can be.
And that's it. And that is why I don't think it's quite on the level that the rumour mill has propelled itself to. But if a Chinese company is in the process of trying to acquire Zuffa, I think $6 billion is probably a bit too much in terms of what the actual fee would be.
Yeah.
But that's why numbers like that are being thrown around.
Yeah, I've heard that as well.
Again, because if the UFC are turning around pulling 20+ million an event, people are saying, why is the UFC trying to do 100 shows a year and some of the cards being sort of packed out with locals and then having one or two showcase fights? Why are you paying to watch the card? If they're making 20+ million a show, why wouldn't they do it?
Yeah, the people turn up. Yeah, people buy the tickets. Look at Zagreb and Rotterdam. Those all. I'm just picking those cards in particular because they're coming up. They will all sell out, even if the cards were not that good. They would still sell out.
And that's it. It's like the London card. It's no gripe on any of the UK fighters. Like I'm really good friends with most of them, but it's like the UFC London card. I would never pay to go and watch the London card because I want. When we got, was it Jose Aldo, Michael McDonald? No, it wasn't, was it? Who did we get the other year? Was it Barrow, Michael McDonald?
Yeah, that was at Wembley.
Yeah, that was great. I loved that fight, and that made me want to go and watch it. I don't like the idea of paying, because when I go to an event, I want to sit up front, which means I'm paying a couple grand for the entire weekend. I don't want to pay that amount of money that to watch fighters that I have been watching on regional shows leading up to that point for the last 4 or 5 years, such as Scott Askham.
Yeah.
Great fighter. I've watched him through his time through all the regional shows in Yorkshire on CSFC and on BAMA. I was in the UFC. I don't want to pay £1,000 to go and watch him. It's no gripe on him, but I will make the payment of my BT subscription to watch it on TV.
Yeah.
And it all goes into that pot.
Yeah. It is one of the, I'm the same as you. When this last London card, I didn't think about going to because of the card itself. I was just not. It wasn't screaming out to me enough. I'm a bit.
And that's it. They've got great fighters on there. Brad Pickett, he's one of my favourite fighters. I speak to him, like I say, every other day on the phone.
Yeah.
And he's a guy I love to watch because he will bite down on his gun shield and he will either try and take your head off or lose his in the process.
Yeah.
But I would not pay to watch him in the event, in the arena, when I can watch him for £13 a month on my TV at home.
Yeah. It is. It's tough.
I think that's it. You have to be give and take. There has to be a spectacle that will make people want to go out and buy a ticket. And for me, the Barrow McDonald fight, or whoever it was, I can't remember, did.
Yeah, I think that it's something like, say a spectacle needs to happen on each card, and I think because they're spreading themselves out with so many cards, it's hard to get a spectacle every time.
Yeah, and that's what I'm saying. When they're promoting, I don't know, realistically, what do they do? Is it 60 shows a year or something?
40. I think it's 46 cards.
Yeah, something like that. Yeah. And that's what I'm saying. Some of them, when you do the Ultimate Fighter finale China, and there are 30 guys competing on the card and 29 of them you've never heard of.
Aye.
I appreciate that they might not make the 20 million on that card, but you've got to look what they're doing in terms of the sport. They're growing it in an area gives a shit? You live 4,000 miles away.
Yeah.
They're not trying to make you watch the card. They're trying to get the billion people that currently live in China to watch that show.
Yeah.
And they're doing it. So that's business again.
It is.
And it's working for them.
It's all about the dollar for them, you know. That's what the people, and I think people need to realise sometimes that I fall into the trap when I think about matchups that should happen and they don't happen, and I go, oh, why is that not happening? And then literally I sit there and go, it's because it's about money. It's not because of logic.
And that's it.
Yeah.
And you're absolutely right, John. And some bloke, he showed me the other side of the coin recently when I put something up on Facebook about UFC 200. Now, when you think about who you've got, so I'm stuck there thinking, right, McGregor versus Frankie Edgar, superb featherweight title fight, that. Nate Diaz versus Dos Anjos, superb lightweight fight. We'll have a super fight between Robbie Lawler and GSP. Stick them all on the UFC 200 card in Vegas. It'll be the biggest thing anybody's ever seen. And that sounds superb. But you'll still only do 2 million pay-per-view buys. Now, why would you put all those fights on one card when you can put McGregor versus Frankie on one card and do 1 million? You can put Dos Anjos versus Nate Diaz on another card, do 1 million.
Yeah.
And then you can put GSP versus Lawler and do 2 million. And get 4 million pay-per-view buys for the price of 2 million that you would have got had you stuck them all together. And that's why the UFC do what they do, and that's why money will always talk bigger than who deserves a fight for the belt.
No, it's frustrating, but you're right, and I think it's just one of the things we have to accept and just kind of get over it. Really, it's just one of them ones. I think that whenever you see a fight and you think, right, what's next, you've kind of got to sit there and go, right, what's the most financial fight that's going to happen for them? That's pretty much how you got to look at the cards. And yeah, I kind of get it. I get it, but it just sucks.
It does suck, and from a promoting point of view, a managerial point of view, official point of view, everything that I do within the sport in this country, if I could change it, I would.
Yeah.
But you're never going to change it, so why not?
Yeah, exactly. It's something you just gotta accept, mate. Look, I'm going to let you shoot off, Chris, because I know you're a busy man. But before I let you go, what's your social media stuff so people can jump on if they're a fighter and they're finding it hard to get a fight and they need someone to help them, they need a manager, there's someone they contact you. Where can they get your promotion? Like what's the link, so to speak, and stuff like that?
Anybody who wants to fight on my show, all you need to do is contact. Well, my number is on the pages. If you just search BUDO Fighting Championships on Google, you'll find the details on there. I'll send a private message. It's at BUDO Fight Champs on Twitter, and I will do my utmost best to match you. Anybody will, like I say, somebody once said I match more fights than Don King, and I'm beginning to believe it. And that's not only me, but if I cannot get your fight on my show, I will put you forward for other events, and you can speak to any other promoter in the area that will do that. I have the Fight Agency, which again is the Fight Agency on Twitter, it's the Fight Agency on Facebook. I exclusively manage fighters, but if I do not manage you, and you want to fight, but you don't want to be managed, please again feel free to contact me for any fights, because currently I'm doing fights out there for Finland, Italy, even the US. Guys contact, and all over the country, guys contact me, so please get involved, because I will help you even if I don't know you.
I will put I'll put Chris's details, by the way, on the description on the YouTube bit and on the SoundCloud bit. If you just you can click on it and all that bother, because people are lazy these days. So you can just click on the links and stuff, and it can go there.
That's great, mate. Feel free.
Yeah. So jump on and give him a follow. Get a bit of contact in. Look, have a great fight card this weekend, Chris. Enjoy your Easter holidays, and I'll be speaking to you soon, my friend.
Yeah, you will do. Appreciate the phone call, mate. Have a good one.